That light is right in my mohawk.
I have no lights. Oh shit.
Uh-oh. Oh yeah, these, yeah, the microphone. Maybe I gotta plug it in here. Yeah, plug it in. There you go. This one? Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh no, but I still.
Yeah, don't worry.
Okay. Yeah.
What's going on? What's going on? Ah,
Still working on it. Can you hear me?
yeah, you fine.
Oh, great. Okay. So
Yep,
this
you're
is
good.
yeah. Okay. Wonderful. I'm glad everything is coming together here.
Yeah,
Just
yeah.
make some adjustments. So, hi, Deacon. Good to see you. Yeah, happy to see you guys. So, Twin is there. I see. Hi, Twin. Wow, long
Yep,
time, huh? It's been a while.
yep. It has. It has. Lots been
Yeah,
going on here
a lot.
in the US, so I haven't even been keeping up with my international news. You know what I'm saying? I
Huh.
mean, we Tucker Carlson, he I don't know if you heard, he interviewed Vladimir Putin. And
Ah,
so yeah, we got to
not
both.
surprised. Not surprised at all.
Right,
Uh,
right.
I mean, so like I would just like to say that for the first time in a very long time, U.S. news is international news, and vice versa. U.S. Now
Right.
has its ears in the in the sphere. Thank you. Technical crew is still with us.
Okay.
So yeah, U.S. is forced right now to have its ears in the international arena on a public level. So
Right.
I think that this is a really amazing point in time. It's really incredible to see how this situation is going to work out. It's I'm very curious on your part, like sometimes in international news you hear the term war. So I'm
Right.
just curious what they're calling it on your end. Like, are they calling this conflict between, you know, um, the people of Palestine with Israel a war?
They're calling it a conflict.
They're kind of okay. They're using the very ambiguous term for it.
Yeah, yeah, conflict.
Okay.
Yeah. Um,
I mean, that's probably the most accurate term I've heard in media since
right,
all of this started. Because here on our end, we hear war a lot.
right, right.
And, I mean, for it to be a war, there should be an equal chance for the opposite team to, to defend and to, retaliate and to be on the offensive. But in this particular case, I think the terms that we're using more often this part of the world is massacre,
Oh,
genocide.
right.
Um, yeah, it's really, really disturbing. So I
Yeah,
love the title, by the way.
but a lot of people are saying that Hamas, they put Palestine in that situation by attacking Israel. No, I mean, knowing that when you attack, you open up for the consequences that come with that. So, I do understand that, yeah, Gaza's outmatched and outgunned by Israel, but Hamas, it seemed like they would have like preempted all that before they attacked Israel.
Um, I mean, I think that the situation, the way it's being understood, is that Hamas comes out of nowhere and they just decide to attack Israel.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it, I think what's really incredible about this situation is that a lot of the things I was screaming and hollering about for the last couple of decades,
Mm-hmm.
when I would say free Palestine was, let's say the same reason why I would say free Tibet. Man. Uh oh, did I just do something with the sound?
No, you
It's
good.
okay.
It's
Okay.
good.
Um, So I think that, man decided to make these, invisible borders, and to, call them countries, and to put all of these stipulations on how you cross these borders, and how these, you know these dotted lines on a globe become yours as a nation. And yet, in turn, did not pay any of those same respects to Palestine. you know um, I think that it's very interesting that,
Well, weren't
Palestine.
all lands acquired by war, even since when you go back to even biblical times, which they always claim about biblical times, but I mean, every nation has been formed through conflict. Nobody has peacefully just said, "Oh, this is our land." I mean, there's always been. In fact, every nation that exists now didn't exist maybe what about 9,000 years ago. These were different lands, and now places like America, there was conflict in order to birth America. You can even say like according to Putin, um, with the whole Ukraine Russia situation, he explained that whole history, and then uh, also, um, I mean, if you just look at situations, like I said, most of your nations, China, are born through conflict. So when we talk about, oh, well, this is wrong, but every nation has done it. Every nation in the world has done it.
I mean, I would say,
Every
like, the
has
comparison.
brought conflict to protect what they've, like I said, born in the conflict, and they continue the conflict to protect their borders, their sovereignty, or whatever it is that they fought for.
I mean, I think that, to answer that question, in comparison, let's say, to, all of these conquests, we'll even say, even the conquest of the West. Yes, they went in. The parallel for me is really amazing, because when we talk about the true Native Americans, the people who were on, the American continent,
Hmm.
long before the settlers came in. The settlers came in as,
Yeah, but you
explorers.
see where your argument's going. I can already see where your
Yes,
argument's going. The Native
right.
Americans were here first. I mean, we hear the same
Okay.
song and dance, but
So, and
as
let's talk about
as
it.
as
So
what?
I want to even go to a deeper level. So let's look
Okay.
at, like, who are the Native Americans. So we're even talking about not just the people that are presented, as Indians on, television,
Yeah, but weren't the
but
all the First Nations, weren't they fighting for land also before the Europeans even
so
got
I'm
here?
if you give me a moment, I'm going to take
Okay.
you even a step further in history.
Okay.
I want to talk about the people that, what the you know the Native Americans
Mhm.
today, being their title as a group, called the people before them. And, they would often tell these stories, or have these, drawings of these, like, these other people. They were
Uh-huh.
very specific in these drawings. If you guys want to do some due diligence, and find sources where you have, like, true
But
historical
Nature Mom,
facts.
I think you're missing the point of where I'm going with
No,
this.
you
What I'm
didn't let me
saying
get
is
to my
that
point now. You
okay,
didn't let me
okay,
get
okay,
there. So you remember me. You got to be
okay,
patient.
okay, okay. Right, because
You know,
I'm just like, because
I'll give you, when it's your turn. I'll give you a baton. How's that?
okay, okay, all right, okay.
So, with that being said, these people that were there before the group that we call the Native Americans,
Hmm.
their history, their, presence is completely erased, annihilated, right?
Hmm.
Um, so many nations work together, yes, to create what we call America, and the
Hmm.
continent of America as a whole today. So very similarly, what we're looking at in Palestine was a group of people, who, you know, occupied a particular land. They, opened. They were, if you look at some historical, documentation, these were people who weren't, maybe, they when the Muslim faith came into that region,
Right.
they accepted. It was one of the few places in the world, everyone, Christians, just like today, Muslims, and Jewish as well. And I think that what's interesting about this situation is that, you know, certain countries decided, we are going to uh, reclaim this space for, oh, not the people who are here, but you.
Hmm.
You come over here because we don't want you in our countries, but we're going to reclaim this space for you, and we're going to help this to happen.
Right.
And, so is this about, people coming in and conquering? Okay, so if it's about conquering, let's call it that. Let's not call it, give it these guises like holy land and chosen people and,
Hmm.
all these other things. Let's talk about it. Certain countries came in with an agreement, and from that point of agreement forth, which was what, 1943, when they made that agreement, implemented in 1948, they decided to disarm the people who were originally there,
Right.
if they chose to bear arms, and then put them in, slowly and methodically put them in concentration camps in their own land, and slowly, like you said, started to conquer the rest,
Hmm.
apartheiding the original people of that land. So in this international agreement, these international, treaties, and all these things that are going on to this day, I think that it's really interesting that the identity of these people are able to be just completely erased and taken over without it being called what it really is, without it being called a conquest. Because if it's a conquest, then it falls under different international laws. And yet, if we call it a treaty, if we call it, a what do they say, a peacekeeping effort, then you're able to choose who's going to be supported, which we are still seeing to this day, and who's not. So bringing it back to the October 7th, initiation, Hamas, very similarly to what a group in Ukraine did, they asked for assistance. They asked for help. They their lands were being taken away, their homes were being taken away illegally, even under the laws that are within that own region, with against Israeli laws as well, and just remove people from their homes because they had the superiority to do that. The superiority based on supremacy, based on the government supporting, systemic supremacy. They were able to do this. People were dying from 1948 until this day. And then when this group says, we need some help, our people, they weren't even trying to get any land back. They were just trying to keep themselves and their children from being beaten and murdered and harassed every single day. And this group stepped in to assist them because no one else in the entire, uh, you know, uh, global arena steps up to help them. So, when we talk about, Hamas, basically we're talking about, in very simple words, you know, um,
So when
right,
Hamas, you're saying that they stepped up to help the Palestinians, and so
correct,
again, I'm trying
who
to
were being
so
murdered, were
right, but
being,
what I'm trying to understand is that when you step up to a power like Israel, you have to be prepared. You can't say, okay, I'm going to attack Israel. And then when you get your ass whooped, you're like, oh, it's a massacre. It's like, this is what you've prepared for. This is what you've, this is what you mounted
you're
up
saying
your
you set
arms.
yourself up for it. Okay. So what's interesting about that is, um, I have no receipts on this, but there is, some very interesting things that happen on October 7th. For example,
Mhm.
I mean, as much security, drones, I mean, so like they've got a dome over, over what they call Israel, correct?
Right, right.
So there's pretty much nobody getting in or out of that system. Every single wall and separated point is heavily monitored, heavily guarded. And so it's just really interesting on October 7th that this one gate automatically swings open as if a magical, God fairy mother came and waved her wand and swung that gate open. And this what they call the insurgent group was able to pass through heavy security, heavy surveillance, and you know an
So
attack
are you
occurred.
calling it a conspiracy? Or are you, I mean, what are you insinuating? That's an
I'm
inside?
just saying a lot of protocol that usually takes place before that did not happen at all that day. And I think that it's really interesting
I understand
because
that, but there's still the responsibility still falls on Hamas because again, you're making.
so
So
then
are you
once
saying there's inside agents that provoked it? I mean, is it like a
I mean,
J6?
I just think it's very interesting that some of the documents that that were put out there, let's say in 1967, in
Mhm.
the 70s, Carter, a lot of people, Mandela himself, really spoke up quite often of the fear that the ability of the people of Israel, the group of Israel, are able to assume identities of other groups, act out a situation, and then that group can be implicated. And these fears were put into documentation to the United States as a warning. And it's just interesting how today, like I said, broken protocol for one day, and it
Mm.
created this whole chain of events where they're able to heavily bomb and destroy civilians.
Yeah, but you're talking about like hand gliders. You're talking about like and I seen them when I went to Florida. It's like these little buggies and they're I mean, I think when they designed the Iron Dome, they had more like tanks in mind, jets, more adamant objects as opposed to just one guy on a buggy gliding in. That's how they came in. And so,
So what you're telling me is that one guy breaks through this heavily guarded, heavily surveillance
no,
gate on a
it was
buggy.
it was quite few of them on a buggy. They came in. It was dozens and dozens and dozens of them on little buggies that glided
And,
in.
and I love the terms you're using, little, buggy. I mean, I'm just like, we're talking about a group of people who have for like from 1948 until like I just saw a situation just before the October 7th event, where the Israel settlers went in to an area that was supposed to be designated solely for Palestinians,
Hmm.
and they came up against children and old men, mostly farmers, like village people. The village people were throwing stones in defense of like heavy rocket artillery being shot at them, right?
Okay, right, right. So you're talking about a different. So
I'm
we did talking about a different timeline. Are we talking about the initial attack, or
no,
we're
no, no.
talking
Where
about
I gave
after?
you a little bit of information just before that, just before this situation occurred, because I've been watching Palestine and Israel and the conflict
Okay,
for
so you're
a
saying
long time.
the day before there was a
No, I'm not
conflict.
talking about the day before. I'm just talking about time. Let's say, I mean, specifically, I started to watch very closely for about 3 years before this event. So,
Okay.
and when I was posting information like, look at this,
No,
sheep
I
herders,
understand all that. Next
right?
mom, I get
Okay,
what you're
so
saying,
so
that they
slow
were
down. I
attacks.
don't think you're
Okay.
getting what I'm saying. So
No,
I'm
I
gonna
get
I'm
what
gonna
you're saying because I've heard it. I've heard it. I've
okay.
been following
So
this
we're
thing
talking
for
about
years like
before
you.
that point, before October 7th, they
Hmm.
would know if a child was walking in the street with stones in his hands
Right.
from the amount of surveillance that is on these people. They knew when they were going to, mosque, especially when they had to cross those gates, those
Right.
heavily guarded and again, surveillance gates, and
Hmm.
and and so many issues breaking out in there. Yes, if the
Okay.
person said one word against the settlers there, they were able to attack them and many times beat them or shoot them or gun them down before this event, correct? So you're telling me that all of a sudden this has all been going on like,
Hmm.
everyday clockwork. So we'll put it in the perspective
Yeah, but
of
it still
LAPD.
doesn't. This still doesn't. I see where you're going, but this still doesn't like.
So
Uh,
you're saying, what? Why would Hamas put the Palestinian people in a
that's what I'm
situation
saying.
to be massacred? Is what you're saying?
Yeah.
What I'm saying is, I have a few questions, and what I'm saying is, um, just based on observation,
Hmm.
why this particular day, dozens and dozens of buggies are
Hmm.
able to bust through a gate that has always been heavily guarded. I mean, you would be within, a few yards of that place and you are already gunned down, bombed out, annihilated. We've seen it over and over again if we've been watching, correct? But this one day,
No, I don't think they've
somebody,
ever used buggies. I don't think so. They've always been, like you said, using rocks, and they've always like been on foot. They've never ever 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 glided above and
okay.
did an
So
aerial attack. That's never happened.
I think that is a really amazing point to be made there,
Okay.
because out of the amount of surveillance that they have, and as much like aggressive policing, we'll give it that word for now, that they've been able, to sustain, the
Hmm.
aggressive occupation they've been able to sustain from that point on. And like I said, if any of those settlers were even anywhere close to these entry points, these walls, they were gunned down yards back. And yet you have these, these special, artillery coming in,
Hmm.
and all of a sudden somebody had to, go make a sandwich or go to the bathroom, and just missed that, the people that they've been heavily oppressing with rocks in their hands, and some sticks. If they actually have enough artillery, and they were suspecting that, I mean, and Freud himself, right? He already pointed out in the age of, the birth of psychology, you oppress someone long enough, then you are creating a retaliator. So
Right, but
isn't that why
the
they have all that
retaliation.
heavy isn't why they have all that heavy surveillance, isn't why they have those heavily guarded checkpoints,
Point
is
made.
because,
Point made.
right?
But again,
So all of a sudden something is happening and you don't see it coming your way. You just missed it. You notice when they're coming, when a baby even is walking on the road towards your gate, and you shoot them down, which has happened so many times, so many
so
children.
I'm let me get this straight. So you're saying, okay, they, you kind of the blindsidedness is very questionable. But now when they
Highly
mount
questionable.
up, which took them, let's just say, I don't know, did it take them what, 2 days to really get on their feet and then fight back? Now it's a massacre.
Okay, so let's say, no, I mean, you know, on about the same level. They've been fighting back for a long time.
Yeah.
So these people, these everyday human beings trying to go to school, trying to, get food from, the food sources when there was some, trying to go to their mosque, trying to go to university on the other side, of a wall.
Hmm.
Um, and and let's just speak about all the Palestinian Americans, Palestinian, the British Palestinians, Australian Palestinian people, who German ones, who hold passports, but when the minute they get on that soil, they are heavily harassed, right? So you're not assuming that, just because you're fighting and you're attacking the villagers every day, that they don't have like extra resources, and say, ouch, this is really hurting. Family, somebody help me, because this big bully, around the corner, it just keeps jumping me.
Yeah, but
So,
their justification is that the people that attack them, that they have to flush them out, that they have to wipe them out and eliminate
mm,
the people that initiated this attack on Israel. So that is
so
their
so
justification.
they're bombing hospitals,
Hmm.
schools. They are bombing, their Christian churches.
Hmm.
For those of you who are Christians out there, they're bombing Christian churches because they're flushing them out. What's interesting is like, they haven't gone into any of their own territory to flush anybody out, and to bomb, and to, attack on that type of scale, but only in these areas. Which, if you look at, a map, and you look at all of the, construction plans that are happening in this region, all the
Hmm.
new trade routes, and the amount of time it takes them to get from one point to another, just, with a massive land in between.
So are you saying that somebody who is in cahoots with the construction, somebody's in cahoots with Benjamin Netanyahu, is inside of Hamas and help initiate this?
I'm not
Is this
saying
what
that
you're alluding to?
that there's someone inside of Hamas, but I just feel, that brings up my next question. I, I feel that, these people have the intelligence, the ally sources to, put on any costume they want and do whatever they want, so that they get whatever they want in the name of whatever they want. So, I'll give you an example. Just looking at the fact that, actually, maybe I won't put that example out there, because that's a very sensitive topic even for me to this day. But I'll retract that one, and go with the fact that, these are people who, really, their actions, their behaviors, their practices of, of apartheid, and, the agreements that have been going on between the same, supporters, all the way back, at the point of the South African apartheid, which
Hmm.
I think is no coincidence that South Africa was the first country to bring international charges in the the International Court of Justice.
Hmm.
Um, a lot of their behaviors are so, reminiscent of the SS regime. A lot of people keep making these comparisons, and they're like, how could you be the people, that, every, body, like, hears these horrible stories about the Germans and the Nazi, concentration camps and all this behavior, but yet you guys do exactly those same things. And it just, brought a theory to my mind. I have no backing behind it, but what I do, think about is how, if someone is escaping international charges, if they're escaping, when you look at this group, who Palestine, with the help of, many Western countries, was given to, and the way that they went in so immediately and massacred all those people to, get their land that they were promised by these countries. The heinousness of those actions then, and how they mirror so much now. I know that a blood tests were done, mass, just population sampling, And one of the things that came up was that a lot of these settler groups that are in this region and calling themselves, um, Israelites, Semitic people, actually had no Semitic roots. They actually had European roots. And it made me ask the question then, so I wonder how much of those European roots are actually German roots, because I tell you, if I was trying to hide from something, I would use the best strategy of hiding possible, right? Which is fold into the crowd that is being released instead of going, yes, I'm one of the people who, gunned them down, gassed them, jailed them. That's me.
But wouldn't
If
that
you're
be a
trying to,
conspiracy theory, though, Nature
it
Mom? I
would
mean,
be. It would be.
I
That's why I
mean,
said it's my own hypothesis, and I'd be
yeah.
curious, for some blood tests to be done, and
I mean, but
just
based on what though? Blood tests based on what? I mean, you have to have. I mean, you just can't go around telling people why you want blood tests. I mean, you have
no, I
to.
mean, so blood has already been drawn just to, people wanted to know how much of their heritage was truly Semitic. And they found that it was a very, very low percentage of all the people sampled.
Yeah, but then you
So
say
I'd be
that race.
curious.
There's no such thing as race. That race is a construct.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. But
So
you
then,
can
how
also,
would testing different bloods? Because I
oh,
mean, there's
so
no
let's just
pure.
say, we can, through DNA, have an idea of where some DNA comes from in the world, correct? You know, we can trace whether or not, you are, 100%, from this region, or you're from
How
this
far does
region.
that go back though? Because you have, like I
I'd be
said, you
curious.
have, huh?
I'd be curious. I would be curious. Like, what do you mean? Like, how far
Well,
would
when I
the
say how far does it go back? So if you okay, so you know, every person has a mom and daddy. They mom and daddy have a mom and daddy, and on this side they have a mom and daddy, and then you know what I'm saying, it keeps the tree
yes,
broadens out. So it's like you
exactly.
can do a blood test and have family from China, from
Right.
Chile, from
But they can,
Venezuela, from Germany. You know
science
what I'm
have,
saying?
but
So
science
there's
is
no hundred
advanced
percent
enough to
nothing.
give you an idea of, like, let's say, how close in that family tree your DNA roots are to
But
those
again, how far
particular.
does the accuracy go back? 100 years, 200 years, 1,000 years. I mean, because like
I think that, like,
there are people
the group.
arguing saying that there were black people in Egypt, and they're saying no, there are actually Arabs in Egypt, and then it's like, I mean, we're talking about timeline. So how far and how accurate? Again, the people of ancient Egypt don't look nothing like anybody of today. You know what I'm
Mm,
saying? So the
exactly.
people of Samaria, of ancient Samaria, don't look like any human being today because there were mixtures, there were migrations. And so
Yeah.
again, like even Africans, they say, oh, Africans come in many shades. You got light-skinned African people. I'm sure that didn't exist maybe 2,000 or 3,000 years ago. But now you got black people that's light as white people now.
Right. So I just to give you some, like, background on this, actually there are still groups of people, but one particular group in South Africa, or in that region, who have some of the oldest traceable DNA. So discovering that in science really helped with DNA mapping. It really helped people to understand more, like, okay, so, these people actually are a mixture of, some of the people who came from the north, some of the Berbers, some of the Africans, and a mixture of some of the Sands. So it's just like looking at our genetic tree, comparing us to turtles or comparing us to trees. You're able to see through that,
So then,
that.
where does the Semite become a or Shemite become a new race? Because I'm sure
Okay.
1,000 years ago there were no Semites. So when did it become? I mean, because it seems
Okay.
like everything's based on the Bible, on a religion, the Bible, the Torah, the
Okay.
Quran, and all that stuff. Just like
So let's be clear, when we're talking about the Semites, mostly we're talking about, people from that region who
from the
still
Levant, right?
carry. Say it again.
The Levant region, I'm
The
assuming.
Levant.
Yeah.
So people who
But
particularly
people
carry
have
ancient.
migrated into the Levant. That's what I'm saying when they make
Okay,
this
so that
argument.
I'm gonna be clear. So people who are who speak an ancient language. So it's, you know, I think that that's one of the difficulties about trying to make a Semite a race,
Uh-huh,
because like
right.
you said, you know, there's a lot of people who came in, they learn the like ancient language. Yet there's people who have let's say true genealogy from that
What's the
region
true genealogy?
longer.
What's the true genealogy? That's kind of, it's just
That's
like
that's
saying
what I'm
like,
saying.
I think, okay, so like the Cherokees. The Cherokees are a nation, and you have like black Cherokees, you have more Asiatic Cherokees, you have some now that are white. So it's like, what are we specifically? Are we
Okay,
like?
so again, that's like saying, you know, how do you trace an American?
Hmm.
So if we did our DNA, you know, we would know that from where we are now, our roots carry, and it gives us a story. Yes, it gives us an idea that okay, there's some of this that came into our story, there's some of, you know, this area that gives us a clue. Oh, okay, you know, we have some, you know, West Indian roots, so then that lets you know that okay, we probably came through that slave trade route, you know, or you know, we were a part of the slave trade route in some way, shape, or form. It gives
Yeah,
you a
but how?
little map of
Yeah,
the history.
but it only, and this is the problem with most people in America, they only trace, like, how far does it trace back to maybe Angola or the Congo, or you know what I'm saying, even back to maybe, I don't know, because some people, they cross their fingers, hope, ooh, I hope I can trace back to ancient Egypt, and it's like, you
Yeah,
know, so
yeah,
like,
yeah.
what, I mean, and then
I mean,
uh
right.
you got mixtures of people like the Alwats, which were the original Jamaicans. You know what I'm saying? So you got so
Yeah,
many groups and so many, like I said, like
right.
when you look at, like, say, Black Native Americans, or like
Mhm.
um, when you look at, like I said, the Alwats, the original Jamaicans, or still whatever.
Mm,
Like, how far are we going back, and how accurate are we
right,
going?
right.
Like, how,
So
like, the farther
so
we
let's do
go
a
back, does
comparison.
the accuracy decrease the farther we go back?
I mean, you know, the DNA is there no matter what, right? So
Okay.
we can trace and just with through those, you know, those four letters, right? The T,
Okay.
the A, the G, right, right. We can trace back um our roots all the way to, you know, ferns, right? We can trace our roots all the way back you know, to where we were once. I don't want to say algae, but you know, we'll just say, you know, we were just single cell living creatures, right?
Oh, so it
And
can trace back that far?
I mean, through genetics, yes. So we all know that we're related. You know, even in the animal kingdom, we are a part of the animal kingdom, right? So we can get that information.
So
But let's say,
again,
for
to,
example,
for that
that there is
argument,
a trace. There is a trace that could give us a very good ideology if most of our roots came from, you know, the like more Arab Caucasus roots,
mhm.
or if they came, you know, more from, you know, African, you know, was actually in the, you know, continent of Africa roots, versus if someone came, you know, more from the Asiatic roots, right? We're getting these clues in the DNA. So we would have to do a whole, you know, genetic count, like a lesson, in order to break down the specifics of that, or
But
most, you know,
again, you
majority of
had
the
people
instances.
migrating forever and forever and ever and ever and ever. You had people even during some, like, somewhere as isolated as Japan during the
Right,
feudal samurai era. You had
right,
like black slaves through there. You had black
right.
samurais. So it's like people migrated, and then you had Buddha that came from India. So you had people
Correct. But we're
migrating
not talking
forever.
about individuals. We're you know, and very small samples. We're talking about, you know, a people who are calling themselves a nation,
Uh-huh.
and we have a much larger of a sample to get more clues of patterns, right? So we're not talking about like, in Japan, where you're gonna have, let's say, maybe a group of like 10 black samurais here and 20 over there, and you can just tell from, the drawings, the paintings, the writings, and if you did some, some DNA background, and then you find out, oh, well, my hair is really curly, and knowing that I still and my family came from this region very recently, there's a chance that
I
some of
mean,
those curly hair roots could have come from the slave trade route. It could have come from the black samurais who came from the slave trade
and
route,
and it's funny
right?
you bringing this up, and shout out to MD, because MD, he was arguing, because I mean, if you look at the paintings of Egypt where
Hmm.
they look black, but he was saying no, those aren't black people. And now you have people, you clearly have Arabs living there. So my thing is like, and it goes back to the original my original point with the whole nations uh, are born through conflict.
Hmm.
It seems
Oh,
like
yes.
the mainstream nations, there's always been this migration. There's always been war and conflicts. There's always been nations born. So it's like even with the DNA tracing, you're still gonna. I mean, hell, you
You
might
still have the conflict. Yes, it's
right. You
true.
still have a conflict, and
And
you still have bloods that veer off into Ireland. Like you might okay, like
right.
Jamaicans. A lot
But
of
then
them
let's
have
say,
Irish
I think
descent.
right. Okay, but let's say that the hugest issue with this situation um is is the group that is the dominating group right now, are they one, in their conquest, in their conquering of this land,
Hmm.
they've agreed and are part of peace treaties. They're a part of this, global, policing group. And the question is, if any of these acts were done in reverse, more than likely charges of breaking international law, breaking international humanitarian laws would already be heavily prosecuted. And yet in the reverse, it is not the same situation. Sorry, but like, how many times with this situation in Ukraine, which is also, it's people are dying and it's a difficult situation. But when you compare,
Right. Which, by the
uh,
way, I want to give an update to you and the rest of the people.
okay,
The city of oh man, let me yeah, because I do want to give a update on Ukraine. Um, Russia's looking at taking Zaporozhye next, but they've just taken over. What's the name of this city? Give me 1 second. Okay, so Russia has just taken Adivka, Avdivka, Adivka. They've just taken that city. So, and Zelensky is complaining because he didn't get enough arms and he didn't get enough, aid from the U.S. And so he's crying that yeah, Russia took uh, Adivka. They've captured Adivka. Now they're starting attacking Zaporozhye. So I just wanted to get an update on that. But okay. And this is after Putin said he would prefer Biden over Trump. But that's a whole nother show I'm gonna have to do. Shout out to
well,
MD.
of course Putin prefers Biden over Trump.
Well, why is that? Now, why do you think that is, Nature Mom?
Well, I think that a lot of reasons, very much related to all conflicts that are happening in the world right now.
Uh huh.
Um, Trump would make it much easier for this conflict to not go in the direction that it's going, which is like straight, domination and
Real.
destruction.
Right.
He would not let it go that way. He would go more the business route.
Okay.
It would still be happening, but on a much quieter scale. which
Okay.
is a much slower movement. The interest from that whole region all the way over to, China, Russia, um, it's much faster to just murder these people and take the land and bypass the Suez Canal, than it is to, use diplomacy and politics and diplomatics. You can just get to profiteering much faster.
I see. So, like I said, the whole I don't know if you watched the
Empty.
interview. Yeah, watched the interview with Tucker Carlson and Vladimir Putin. I don't know if you've seen that.
No, I didn't get to see it.
Okay, so everything kind of like everything that you're saying about conquest and injustice. Putin was well, he was saying that America, in so many words, don't keep their word. America has violated treaties and has moved forward since the Reagan era and has promised not to expand NATO. And even Putin said, "Look, what he asked Clinton, yo, can we join NATO?" And Putin and Clinton was like, "Nah, you can't join NATO." So it's like he was
If
given a whole
everybody joins NATO, who's going to be the enemies?
well, I think Putin was expecting a no, but he was just testing the waters, to see what the hell's going on. Like, why are we still doing this NATO thing when Soviet Union no longer exists? So, you know,
Yeah.
very interesting state of affairs. But let me just say, uh, definitely watch the interview. Like I said, it was,
Yeah, I'd like to see it.
huh?
I would like to see it. Yeah,
Yeah,
it sounds very, very
it
interesting.
yeah. So yeah, when Putin, MB came out and one day and he was like, yeah, it was big news. Putin said he would rather have Biden over Trump, and then I was just like, wait a minute. I mean, are y'all surprised? Because BRICS is becoming stronger. Russia is gaining more
Yeah.
ground. I mean, and China. I
Israel
mean,
is able to massacre, 2
right?
million people without any a
People
blink
are
of an eye.
the world. They're able to make their move.
Yes,
That make their
yes.
move. And Trump said, "Man, all this wouldn't be happening if he was president." I would tend to agree.
Um,
I
um,
would tend to agree with
I
Trump.
would know. I don't know what he is proposing he would exactly do, but I know
He's
that.
proposing he can end the war in 24 hours.
So that's an interesting and very bold statement. Unfortunately, I think that it would put, the one good thing that came out of this situation is that, um, people, behind their, iron media walls, they've gotten around it. They can see, the true situations. They can see, that they've been gaslit for a long time. And I think that the thing is that people, American people, British people, Australian people, German people, Polish people, everybody's seeing what's happening, and they're like, the people are sitting there with their arms crossed, just going, mm-mm-mm-mm. you know. But it's our commander in chiefs who are making the decision to continue to send our tax dollars, where they are, to,
Right.
try another gaslighting technique of, okay, so now we don't want the world, boycotting, Jewish products. We don't want people boycotting American products that are supporting this conflict. So, let's send Polish people into Ukraine now and let Polish
Right.
people start getting murdered. And so we can divert some of this attention through the media off of what Israel is going to execute so that we can all
But
profit.
but are those Polish soldiers, are those volunteer, or are they do they have no
No,
choice?
no, they will be mandated if they cross the border. A lot of
Whoa, whoa, whoa,
people
whoa,
are.
whoa, 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 whoa. If Putin crosses the Polish border, right?
No, no, no. The talk right now from within Poland, a lot of young Polish people are trying to, be prepared, or maybe move
Wait,
forward
wait, wait, wait,
with.
wait. Nature Mom, you hold on, hold on. Cross
Okay.
what border? What border? Because I'm
There,
hearing a lot.
a lot of people are talking about leaving Poland right now because the word on the street is
Okay,
that
and who crosses what border? I'm sorry. I'm sorry. And who
so
crosses what
NATO.
border? If
Okay, so
NATO,
NATO
NATO.
is speaking about sending Polish troops into Russia for defense of Ukraine.
Oh, okay, got you, got you. So NATO wants this. So they want to provoke a war with Russia, is what you're saying? Because as far as I remember, Ukraine is not part of NATO.
No, they're not, and
Right.
there's been nothing that let's say crosses the agreements, the NATO agreements, for Polish soldiers to be sent in, and this is one of the reasons why Polish people are complaining. They don't
And they
feel
should.
like yes they
And they
should.
should, because NATO would be breaking the agreement of first of all, the non-expansion of NATO has been broken, and that's what Putin was talking about. So again, why would you send Polish soldiers when no NATO nation has been invaded? That's why I was like, what nation and what border? I'm glad you clarified that.
You have the same reaction as many Polish people.
Right, right,
Because
exactly.
they are absolutely uneasy right now, and
Well, yeah,
everyone,
because
without
there's no
it being
threat to
spoken
Poland
out
right
loud,
now.
and without it being spoken out loud, everyone knows what the true mission behind this would be, which is much more related to what's happening in Gaza, in Palestine, um, than it does in what's happening in Ukraine. So, you know, uh, yeah, young people do not want to be drafted um, to fight in in this way for these purposes,
Right,
um, and to give up their lives just so that politics can play chess.
right, right,
So, and knowing, they already are taking out all of the pawns in the Palestinian area. So, the only, strategy would be for us, for our eyes, and for our belief systems. So, I think that that is the biggest concern. It's made a lot of Polish people very uneasy, and
and let me
so
tell
we're
you.
all sitting and waiting to see what's going to happen next.
Okay, so let me tell you on the American end what's going on. What's going on, Tim? What's going on? So they have drafted up, and these are Republicans. I believe Mitch McConnell and I want to say Mitch McConnell and I forgot the other guy's name, but they drew up articles of impeachment for Trump, who is not yet the president, saying if Trump interferes with this war, they can try to impeach him. And Trump is not even the president yet.
Well, I'm not surprised, because there's been a lot of actions, a lot of contracts being drawn in the private sector.
Uh-huh.
If any employees speak out against this conflict, they lose their position. So there's a lot of tactics. There's even people aren't getting um, their hurricane relief. There was a hurricane that just went through. There was also, if I'm not mistaken, a tornado that went through U.S., a part of U.S.,
Mm-hmm.
and took out, annihilated quite a bit. And then there was an earthquake, correct? There were
Right.
three disasters that just happened back to back on U.S. soil, and the flood. Now there's floods happening. In order for It's interesting if you see the type of neighborhoods that are being um, taken out, but for any of these people to receive their relief funds, they have to sign a contract that will keep them from being able to speak against Israel in this conflict situation.
So wait a minute. The people you mean okay,
Yes.
that
Where's
sounds
the connection?
yeah,
It
I'm
is very strange. So
that
I'm
is
like, what does one have to do with the other? Yes, but there
that's
are
very strange.
contracts for American relief. that has a clause that you may not speak out against America's actions or Israel's actions in this particular conflict.
What about Ukraine? Because there's plenty of people speaking out against Ukraine.
There's no mention in any of these relief funds about Ukraine at the moment.
Oh, okay, okay. Because the talk is that Biden is talking about we need more money for Ukraine. When people hear saying, "Well, we need more money for the border," in fact, we have our governor Kemp, and there's other governors that are going down supporting Texas right now, and Biden has taken Texas to court because uh, they want to leave the border open, and Texas is saying no, we can protect our own borders, and so there are there's a split basically going on here in the U.S. where most of your red states are saying we need to close the border, and Biden
Yeah.
is refusing to close the border. So that's been a big thing here in the U.S. too. That's why I haven't been able to hear about like the natural disasters because all that's been here in the news locally is Trump, Fannie Willis case, and the border. That's been the major news. So I didn't even when you told me about these natural disasters, it
Yeah,
went right over
yeah.
my
A
head.
huge flood just went through San Diego. San
Oh,
Diego.
well, they've been the news here has not been focused on that at all.
No,
We've
not
been
at all.
focused on the like I said, the border. The border has, like I said, the borders are wide open here,
Hmm.
and the natural disasters we've been hearing about are people dying from fentanyl. You know,
Hmm.
so
I think that what's interesting is, how all of these situations are kind of compounding together. So when we're talking about, there being a World War III, now you really are drawing a line in the sand because, like you
well,
said,
there's talks of a civil war possibly going down here in the U.S. So World War III, well, World War III, well, we might have a civil war too. So like I said, because there's a lot of bogus things going down here in the U.S. that are just so blatant. And again, it's becoming down the line here in the U.S. between red states and blue states. That's
hmm,
it. You
yeah,
know, and even the ones they call Republicans are it seems like they're really straddling the fence. Well, as Tim would say, the rhinos, and I would say the rhinos too. You got the MAGA party, and then you got the MAGA party, and you got the Una party, which
mm,
is rhino Republicans and Democrats. Basically, anybody against Trump, it's Trump, and then everybody against Trump.
mm.
That's the split here in the U.S. So, and you can see where I
I mean,
stand. I stand with
well, what's interesting is that, like, this strike on Yemen, so that they could keep the Suez Canal route
Mhm.
working while they're murdering the people to make the new canal route, not through what they're calling the Israel part of Palestine, but directly it would go through the Gaza Strip. So what's interesting about this is it just once again, I just feel like there's a lot of gaslighting and a lot of people, American people, like I said, a lot of Westerners also feel very strongly this, gaslighting, and now people are highly aware of it. So it's not surprising to me that you would stir up within the nation a conflict, and then immediately switch it over to a much larger global conflict. um, there's a good chance. I mean, the thing is that, like, so this strike, where Yemen blocked, the Suez Canal, America went over there and bombed them. Um, it would be no surprise to me um, if the countries who would be, let's say, more on a humanitarian stance, or who are more on a, don't try to cut me out of the trade. Although you're always trying to sanction me, you're trying to do this, you're trying to do that. I'm still able to have my routes and make my trade.
Right.
But what's interesting is like the domination of trade that would be able to happen, and plus this new natural gas field that was found just outside of the Gaza Strip on the beach, would
Okay.
be in direct competition with the energy suppliers, who are in conflict right now. So either you have to take an ally, right? I think that this will be the point where we have the greatest possibility of truly seeing a World War III, because depending on who gets that new trade route and who gets possession of that natural gas strip, and then we also already know that there was lots of petrol found underneath Palestine as well.
Right.
So who's going to get control of that? When people ask the question, I see so many times, because people, I'm not on social media a lot, but because of the nature of my work, you know, I got to take a peek at it here and there. Speaking to people, from the United States who are outside and going, no one back home is hearing about the stuff that we're hearing about, and that the stuff that we're seeing over here,
Right.
in this region, you know, um, really seeing how in the beginning it was like almost going towards, this war of like, Muslims versus others in conversation in media, where when you're like in the region, you're like, well, actually, um, you know, Muslim brothers are being sold out by other Muslim brothers in this situation, because they're also not speaking up. Why aren't they
Okay.
speaking up? So if they're not saying anything about it, except no, 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 you should not do that, then the question is, why are they accepting of this, and in some ways indirectly supporting it?
Right.
So I think that a lot is going to be uncovered in 2024. um the which neighbors are going to be in conflict, because this is not going to end with in my very strong opinion. Like I said, if we're making this an issue of, because we got two sides of this conflict. We have this humanitarian side, where mostly, right now, they're only bombing in the areas where the refugees are keep migrating to. So we know that they have absolutely no place left, because where they were was totally flattened. Um, so the question is, if these like destruction campaigns are following the people, um, then truly you're how else do I say this? The conflict is going to be about who's going to stand up and defend for these people, and who is going to stay silent, and be on the side of the people who are going to gain a very huge profit from this situation. um, and the thing about it is that the plan is not in a, if we could do this we might profit. It's, they've been planning this for a long time, and they will greatly profit off of it. And then you'll have a very small group who will have ultimate financial power in this world.
Mm-hmm.
um, it seems like the US is taking the stance to support the power, because they will not be in the seat. Besides military defense itself, they won't be in the seat of financial power that the rest of these other countries stand to gain. What, because either it's going to happen or it's not. And one group will have more financial
Well, one
advantage
could
of
say that's why Putin prefers Biden over Trump, to back your argument. But go ahead. Yeah.
no, I mean, so I think that that's really, when you brought that up, I've been scratching my head about that situation as well. Um, when you're in the middle of your own conflict, um, how do you have time, I mean, I know that Putin, Russia is the dominance in this conflict with, or truly, we'll say a war with Ukraine, because it's
Right.
not a conflict in the same scale that I can say that, the Palestine Israel situation is.
Right.
But in that conflict, he is the dominating hand, but isn't he focused on his strategy, on his, what he's doing? Yet there's some pieces of this where, he stands to gain as well. China stands to gain
Right.
in this situation. When I looked at that the three main options right now to get through, those trade routes, um, unfortunately, I see the Palestinian people having no hope whatsoever, in this. If we ever hear of the nation of Palestine again, would be a miracle. I would say in the future.
Right. And I do understand that. And I know there's been lament and complaints about, yeah, them wiping out Gaza. So, I mean, um,
Just imagine,
again,
it's very similar to, Red Summer, right? That campaign. If you, annihilate a huge, population of people, destroy every single, possibility of documentation of reclaiming any part of that land, then it's in the hands of the person that's making the rules, who gets to choose who's the owner. So I think that that's, for me, like, that was the most eye opening in this situation.
right.
Was, yeah, a lot of people are screaming, you can just kill babies like that. I I think there's many people showing themselves that they would, pull the trigger themselves if that baby was standing between them and a very huge payday.
Right. Right. Wow. Well, we've covered a lot, Nature Mom.
Yes. Yes. Oh, is it? I didn't get to see all the comments that people had today, but I just want to say, I've missed you guys so much. Yeah, you guys, really, this has been a hard working season.
Okay, so
Try.
then, I'm very curious. Where does Qatar, Saudi Arabia stand in all this? Where does the Middle East stand in all this goings on? Because I know you said you've had Arabs stabbing other Arabs in the back, as far as like Hamas, I guess. And I mean, what's your take? I
I
guess
mean,
what is
I'm not gonna say no, Hamas. I just, what I was trying to convey is that I've seen enough information in this last, year, especially, that started to show me that if this one group, if Israel wants to, and with the amount of power support they have,
yeah.
they can identify themselves any way they want, and they can, and these documents that, I started to come across, where, intelligence warning the, America itself, if Israel wanted to, their ability to, to stage any attack
Hmm.
and make it look like it's another group, it is highly possible. And I just thought that was such a strange thing to put out there in a report. Like, why would you even, make that, assumption? The focus was on how powerful their intelligence group is,
Hmm.
on a global scale. I got that point. but to make it a point to put in there that they have the technology, they have the full ability to disguise any actions anywhere in the world. That was the other part. Anywhere in the world, this, one report said they have the ability to do this and to make it be the perpetrators any group they choose.
So again, that leads me back to my original question. Are you saying that there are agents within Hamas that are provoke this whole thing?
I 100% stand on the belief
Uh-huh.
that Israel can do whatever they want in that. It's like they can do whatever they want.
Okay.
They are the rich kids in the block who wants for nothing.
Okay.
They have other countries, including our own,
Hmm.
giving them checks. And I don't know if you guys
Yeah, that's
remember
true.
this, but I kept asking the question, why during the hugest pandemic on the planet did a 68 billion check go over to Israel, like no votes, pass right through,
Right. Yeah.
Congress hands? And I kept saying, for what? Why are we just giving Israel this money? They don't need our money.
Right.
And in this situation, it makes more sense. It makes so much more sense. Of course, it's not that it's aid. This was an investment
Okay.
with our tax dollars. And, in this investment, it makes sense that Western media is not calling this what it is, and not, it's very interesting that how much anywhere else in the world, media can get into Ukraine right now. Yes. Charities can get into Ukraine and give relief. There is absolutely no passageway in. If you are a Western media cover, especially into Palestine, reporters, American reporters, British reporters, French reporters are complaining that they cannot, with their credentials, they are not able to get into the conflict zone. Why is that? Yet, Al Jazeera is sending, reporters over there since day one. And
Right.
these reporters, their families, not even within the target zones and the strike zones, were murdered.
Right. Mm.
So it's, when I'm getting information like that, and I'm looking back at what we've all discussed before, and I'm thinking about, like, one, I don't believe under the presidency of Trump, getting those is 68 billion payouts would be as easy if they're not playing chess according to how Trump would like to play chess. You know, Biden, I've even, I don't know why I did it to myself, but I had to hear a couple of his speeches to see
Right.
what he had to say about the situation, just
Uh-huh.
to see, at least what he's saying to Americans,
Yeah.
to get as much backing as he's getting behind this on a political scale, on a corporate scale, because he must be eloquently speaking something. And when
Right.
I listened to his speech, it was so inaudible. It was
Yeah.
so I mean, even he, in one of the speeches I dared to listen to, said, I better not say that because I'm about to get myself in trouble.
Right. I think I remember hearing saying that. Yeah.
Not an eloquent speaker, not even an eloquent thinker, to be able to admit that, and then still go forward and through your babble still confess. Um, so I think that this is a really I'm starting to wonder if no matter who's in office next, if we are going to see um, some type of large scale global conflict ensue, because people, our governments might be letting us down, but people are communicating to people now. People are sharing the real news, and it's filtering into US, it's filtering into UK and Americans. And my favorite, my very favorite, are Israeli supporters are, calling people of color, I don't care what color they are, but calling them anti-Semitic. That's just the funniest thing I've ever heard. So
Right.
you're calling me a person against people who speak archaic and ancient languages. Well, I'll just straight out call you a white supremacist, and I will straight out call you a racist, and I will straight out call you a person who will massacre people of color because you found another way, through another route and another name for yourselves to oppress a brown group of people for
Mm.
high gain, and to continue the lineage of carnage and of abuse and of destruction, and demonizing of a weaker group to make yourselves look like the victims. That's the best part of this for me, is that
What
I
you
can.
just said reminds me of I don't know. Have you ever heard of Varg Vikernes? A group. He had his group called Burzum.
Burzum.
Yeah,
No,
Burzum. Burzum. No.
I
Oh,
can't say
okay.
that.
Okay. Okay. Well, he's been accused of being a racist and all that, and a
Okay.
neo-Nazi, blah blah blah. And so he's an artist, and he's been blackballed. Well,
Okay.
just as of recent, it's funny that you mentioned that. Uh, Kanye West has printed himself and Varg, and now Varg shirts are being marketed. So it's just funny that you mentioned that. It just kind of tickled me because Varg is being promoted by Kanye of all people, and
Mm.
so now
Okay. I
it's
do.
yeah.
I
Oh, go
know
ahead.
of this artist. I didn't know who he was exactly.
If you, it's a movie. If you watch Lords of Chaos, you'll
Yes,
understand.
Lords of
That's
Chaos.
about
I
Varg.
know of Lords of Chaos.
Yeah,
Yes.
okay. That Varg was one of the main characters of that movie. But yeah,
Okay.
he basically if you know the whole story of Mayhem, so Varg was in that group also, and it's a whole bunch of stuff that happened. But
Mayhem
basically,
as in the band.
huh?
Mayhem as in the band.
Yeah, Mayhem as in the band. Yeah, Varg
Oh, okay. Okay.
played bass before he split off and did his own thing,
Got it.
which was
Okay.
Burzum. But basically, he's been blackballed, blacklisted. He's been on government watch and all that. So he every means of him making money he hasn't been able to do. And
Sure.
Kanye
Sure.
West basically,
Gave him his avenue to making a living.
yeah, now, yeah, so now
Now, so now no one can silence his voice because he can make his own living through his own products. Yeah.
so
So I think
basically,
that
yeah, Kanye has helped Varg out,
yes.
because yeah,
Well, I think that,
it's funny,
I'll
yeah.
make this my last point for today. I think that this is going to be something really important because in the future, I can really see through these two recent situations in between Russia and Ukraine, and between you know um, Palestine and Israel. If you are not independently producing something, if you are not independently owning where you live, your property, if you aren't independently, building your own, community of resources, I can see very, very well that in the future, I think it's the strongest message that Israel has given the world by blocking huge organizations, huge charities from getting water, to men, women, children, and elderly in Palestine. I mean, let alone the food. The one thing that a human being cannot survive, very long is without water. and they are making sure that not even water gets over there. And what that communicated to me is that, very soon we're all upon the cusp of, we go along or you're completely cut off.
Right.
Uh, and I would say Kanye has given the counter to that by saying we can support each other.
Right.
And when we have our own commerce, we don't have to run out and buy Nikes just because, we've been constantly bombarded, primed, and brainwashed to buy a product that is, number one, owned by the same group who is, you know, oppressing a very small group of people for more land, more resources. But now we know for a fact, because I always, ask the question, why do they need these people? They already took most of the country. And now, the original, people of this land are just in little strips around the edges. Unfortunately, they push them to the best edges. And, and that's where we are. Everything is a resource now, and everything is on the cusp of being, highly sanctioned, highly taxed. I mean, don't forget, we've already seen, proposals, that we're all individuals are going to get carbon taxed, for, using too many resources that we were, basically, put into these societies to use, where we're all, using too many food resources, because we're, primed into thinking that we have to eat this amount of food. And now, you either, eat our fake meat that we produce in our laboratories. But if you want to eat the food we want to eat, which is the real stuff, then we're going to highly tax you for it. So I think that this is the biggest thing that I really got from this situation, is that we're all in this war, whether we know it or not.
So they
We are
have been
all.
able to laboratory meats, make lab meat.
Oh, you can thank your favorite pedophile, Mr. Bill Gates. He's already gotten that production well underway. Yes, he warned about it. He said he was going to do it, and it is under production. Yes, there is laboratory, or what they're calling, uh, you know, laboratory produced meats coming to the market in the near future.
So what
There's
are they
some.
going to call it? Are they going to call it meat, or are they going to
I
call
don't
it?
know, but right now the stuff that they're eating, they call it, what do they call it, near meat and beyond burgers, and things, highly processed foods that are not for our systems to be consuming. Ladies and gentlemen, as nature moms always said, from beginning to end, you should be able to recognize your food. You should know, when you're eating something, it shouldn't come from a big pulp and then baked into something, with a lot of sugar and salt, and make you, want to eat it just because they put all the addictive elements in it. You should be able to pick up an apple and recognize it's an apple, pick up a bunch of broccoli and recognize that it's a broccoli. Um, Go towards those types of foods and keep them, viable foods in our market sources.
I think it might be too late for that though, Nature Mom. Because
I'm
they've
afraid of
been
it myself.
because
Even the
like I
soil.
said, if you go back to our ancestry, they probably won't recognize watermelons because it's a hybrid. So, you know,
Yeah,
and then you
our
talk
food
about things
sources.
that go ahead.
No, I was going to say absolutely, and we've talked about this many times before. Our food sources are definitely getting further and further away from actual food. So
Yeah, but a
that's
person can
really.
make that argument and say that's been happened eons ago.
Yes,
Like I said, if you look at, like I said, if a person makes the argument about the original Egyptians, they don't look like us. They don't look like, in fact, they don't no longer exist because of the crossbreeding and the migrations and all that stuff. And so people can make that same argument about the food. That's all I'm saying. Like I said, if you look at the original watermelon, it's not going to look like the watermelon of today. His
right.
ancestry looks totally
So
different.
So let's say there's one thing when we're crossbreeding plants,
Uh-huh.
correct?
Yeah.
It's a whole nother thing when we start to produce them in laboratories.
Oh no, I agree
And
with that. I agree with that. That's why I'm not really against
so let's just say if
plant.
your food sources look more like a laboratory than an actual farm, I would pick, no matter how horrible the soil is, and I would pick the farm over the laboratory setting, as a
Oh no,
source
no,
for my.
absolutely, absolutely, right, right. Because most plants are water based anyway, as opposed to something that's, I guess you would
Yeah.
call a Frankenstein creation. Um,
So just
so
know
you're
that,
saying
like,
it's okay to cross mix plants as opposed to cross
I mean,
mixing
yeah,
animals?
this is why we have certain, varieties of
Okay,
plants, of course. But I think that the issue really, that I'm trying to make in this particular situation is that your food will be, your food and water particularly will be the first source of attack on
right.
you if you yourself are not, a part of a system of producing.
Uh huh.
And you can really make, let's say, you can outlast a lot of things if you know how to get food and water, correct?
Right.
There could be all types of, things going on. But if you can, have food, you can have water, and you have a way to, cleanse yourself and heal your wounds, particularly because this is another area of, what I would call bio warfare,
Right.
that's happening in Palestine right now. They cut off all cleaning water as a first action because, worse than not having something clean to drink is dying from simple infections,
Right.
getting sepsis, which will kill you, within a week,
Yeah.
if you can't properly clean a wound, if you can't properly clean your children's wounds. I think it's one of the cruelest things about this war, not letting these, children, not letting these people, get to, let's say, their asthma medicine. Many of them running from their homes being bombed. They probably didn't last the soot in the air and all of the, having to
Right.
run, uh, more than a month. A lot of people, are being, biologically, attacked in this situation, and that's the thing that nobody. I mean, yes, it's tragic, it's horrible. I've seen these comments, but I think that they don't have a deeper understanding of, how horrible, like, this stance of fighting is, because you're basically, communicating to all of us, when we come after you, yeah, we are going to be even better, very well rehearsed on how to cut off your food sources, how to cut you off from any, healing, from any clean sources of water. We're going to, not only come at you, with these tanks, bombs, guns, air raids, drones. We're going to also make sure that every source of water, of, groundwater, everything around you is contaminated.
Right.
So I think that is, we got to regain some skills that got a little bit, let's say, above, beneath us in our modern culture. Those of us who believe, oh, farmers are these type of people, and, this is not the type of, astute work I want to do. You better learn how to grow something.
Right. Right. And I know they had a protest amongst farmers in Germany. They had a big protest, but I guess I need to look into that
A
because,
few protests.
huh?
There's been a few protests, from
Right.
farmers
Farmers. Yeah.
last,
Mhm.
especially since COVID, as well as in Poland. The farmers
Poland.
blocked all of the, main,
Okay.
streets. Yeah, so this has been going on a lot, and I know even, American farmers, because they've been not sanctioned, but let's say they've been, demanded to destroy crops, which we've talked
Yeah.
about before. You know, this is not giving them free will to be a part of the capitalistic system. You
Right.
know, they're under a controlled capitalistic system, which is, you know, to me a whole nother thing in itself. It's basically also giving a completely different message that, you know, you will earn what we allow you to earn, not what you can earn.
Right.
You know, if you're not a part of our system in the way we have you know, set the protocols, and we have, you know, deemed who, you know, will be you know, wealthy, and we've deemed who will be poor, don't break our system, you know, or, you know, what the other option is, who will be broken in
Right.
that case. So, with that being said, you know, you guys, once again, I just missed you guys so much. I enjoy our conversations. I was even out of practice. I got, you know, soft. I'm not used to, you know, Black Sun always interrupting me like I was before. I knew how to shut you down better.
Right. 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 Well, I mean, you got definitely got the audio and visuals on point. So, because I know we normally would have issues with that as opposed to anything else.
Yes,
But
yes.
yeah,
Um,
the
well, unfortunately, my whole system that we were using before just died on me, and
oh, okay.
yeah,
Oh,
unfortunately,
so you got a whole new system.
Yeah, I'm borrowing a system actually. So
Okay,
I've
okay.
chosen to put my investments in other places. Apple got enough, so I'm not
Oh,
I'm not investing in Apple right now.
right, gotcha. Okay, okay. Yeah, I think I need to get one more camera, and then I think, yeah, I think I'll. Well, I'm trying to, yeah, because the camera I got that I bought, it's outdated already. So,
You know, there's other tricks you can do. You know where to get some lessons from. Because right now the camera that we're using is actually a film camera, and
oh, oh,
we
okay,
yeah, we got this camera back in 2010. So this is a
okay,
quite old camera, and using it for this purpose actually is showing to be, you know, it's got, you know, it's
right.
doing its job, and it actually
Yeah,
looks
doing
good.
the thing. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So it's a very old technology. So
Hmm.
yeah, you know, I think that's another thing too, is like I'm really getting, you know, how we're always pushed into the newest, the latest, and you know, we're losing our ability to use our creative, you know, um, problem solving skills.
Right,
You know, when you just deal with what you have, sometimes it's even better than, you know, everyone having the new thing. Yours looks slightly different. If you've got skill, you can make that look slightly better, or, you know, sell
right.
this, you know. So once again, you know, just, you know, we really have to think about working together. Kanye is, I think, a very good example
Yeah.
of what can be done, and
Mhm.
when we all are thinking about how to support each other instead of how to stand against each other,
Right.
because that's
Exactly. Yeah.
always a part of the
Yeah.
tactic,
Right. Right.
you know.
Yeah. Because it's funny. Like I said, Kanye. He really. Because now he's opened himself up to the whole black metal world. Because
Mhm.
Marg is one of the. He's one of the forefathers of that. So now you got people in Norway and Europe wearing the Kanye shirt now. So it's very
Okay.
interesting. I mean, they know who Kanye West is, obviously, but
Yes, of course.
you
But
know,
just seeing, I think seeing like, you know, another great example of what Kanye's doing is really showing how, you know, without war, you can really negotiate and learn to work together
right,
to create something, to cross borders, you know, to create something new.
right.
um, like I said, you know, kind of relating it to this situation in Palestine, you know, here's a place where people used to all work together, you know,
Hmm.
of different backgrounds. And I think that that's also a misnomer of a lot of, you know, people who are only listening to, you know, US and Western media sources that have a very, you know, single pointed view,
Yeah.
is that, you know, this is a war between, you know, Arabs and the rest of the world, and you know, the brothers of Christianity. No, my friends, you know, there are, you know, people of many backgrounds who live in those areas of Gaza Strip. It's not
Mhm.
just, Muslims. It's not just Arabs.
Right.
There were stories about Americans trying to get out of there,
Yeah.
and
Imagine.
this bombing is indiscriminate. There, you're not flushing anybody out. You're just going to murder everyone,
Right.
and
Yeah.
that's where it already crossed the lines of international infringement. And like I said, if it was, a if this was a country that was a part of the white supremacy system, it would already be stopped, because no one would allow any white supremacist countries to be just totally annihilated for the sake of whatever argument, but because you have so many
I don't know.
different
They
things.
can make that argument because they claim that Ukraine is a white supremacist country, that they have actual Bandera supporters of the former. In fact, I don't know if you've heard in Canada they honored a former SS uh,
Okay, again,
officer
a
that was under.
distinction, a
Okay,
distinction. Putin isn't going through Ukraine and flattening every single thing in his path. His
okay,
objective is not to murder everyone in his way just to take the land that's left.
okay,
I mean,
okay.
I
I got
think
what
that
you're
if
saying.
Putin wants to take over these areas, he wants some of them actually standing and not have to rebuild them.
Okay,
There's
got
some tactic there. In this particular situation, we're seeing, what we thought before, those of us who've been watching, Palestine and all of the, land takeovers and things like this. I believed, oh, it was all about just taking a home because you want a home, right? You're their home, this nice land is next to a beach. Why not, right?
you. Right,
You get the power, you get to walk in as their, very similar to South Africa. You get to say, I'm in the elitist group and I get to take your property because I like your property best. But when I discovered, oh no, they're just annihilating everything, flattening everything out. So why
right,
would you do that? Well, the next step is either, you're going to rebuild, you're going to just build it silly. Okay, that's going to take some time. So it doesn't seem like it's all about this quick rebuilding, because you have these other places that have metropolises. You don't need another metropolis necessarily. So that's when I started to look underground, underwater. And I'm like, that makes perfect sense.
right. Yeah. Well, that's the first. That's the first that I've heard. So yeah, I mean, it doesn't surprise me, but yeah, but you've confirmed. Like I said, it doesn't surprise me. Yeah, all for oil, and same reason why the whole Israel. I mean, not only Israel, but
Three things they're looking for. They want to cut straight through Gaza so that they don't
Mhm.
have to use the Suez Canal as their only, quickest route, because you remember Suez Canal, you only get, so many hours in one direction, everything comes to a stop, and then so many hours in the other direction. And we discovered that when that big, ship tried to make a U-turn through there and blocked the Suez Canal for, I mean, it was for how many, it was like a couple of days that they blocked that canal. It
Mhm.
was a tragedy in commerce, a
Oh,
tragedy.
okay.
So just imagine if you no longer have to go to one point, sit and wait, and then turn around and go back. If you could just make just a nice in and exit,
Right.
commerce and would move much faster. Moving natural resources out of that region and to its purchasers much
Hmm.
faster, so your
Right.
profits can roll in. Yeah, so all of that was very well revealed in this company. And the worst part is, like, there was a point in time where, like I said, just the claim of being victims. Oh, we're victims,
Right.
but being the predicators just really made me uh, wonder these things, and I was like, okay, so they were hiding under the guise of victim before, but now there's no hiding anything.
Right.
Everything is out there on the table. We're all, everybody who's, got their eye on Palestine knows exactly what this is about, why
Mhm.
you're willing to murder women, children, anybody, disabled. You don't care. You're even what the craziest part is, you are bombing these medical vans, these ambulances. You're doing everything possible to make sure nobody survives this.
Right.
Why?
Yeah.
Because when you have nobody left, there's no one who is going to bring up any case. You will have no witnesses, and you're able to just boldly, like, I mean, this is a conquest, a conquering on Genghis Khan could never figure out. So, the fact that you said, isn't it about, just like, a conqueror finding his territory and just, taking out, or, imprisoning, or, enslaving, the conquered, so that they win. It's not about that. It's really about, complete annihilation for ultimate power. And this is a precedence we've never seen before in history, where it's just so out in the open for the world to see. And, I don't take it just as like a new precedence in war, tactics. I,
Right.
I take it as a message to each and every one of us.
Wow. All right, Nature Mom.
All
Well,
right. So thank you for having me.
yeah. I guess was this a good time?
This is fantastic. So I'll let you know for sure about next week over this week, because yeah,
Well, you
the
got some more band stuff
we're
coming
still
up,
going.
or what?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Thank goodness. Yeah, we have for sure on Thursday we have a
Okay.
show. Yeah, so this is like it's becoming a regular thing here, which is great,
Okay. Good.
because
Good.
it's just wonderful
As long as
to.
the pay is regular, you know. Yeah.
That's the important part. Yeah,
Hey,
exactly.
hey. I know because again, you're not only a band member, but you're the manager too. So just
Doing a
doing
lot of, like, yeah, the business
right
side of it,
business
and
side, which
yeah,
I recommend that all bands have at least one person doing that. I think that yeah, you're setting a good
I think
precedence
all
for
artists in general.
yeah, all artists. Yeah.
It's really, the kids and I went to uh, a game event yesterday, a geek event, which they
Yeah.
call here. I like it. Um, and of course, there was cosplay. There was, a lot of
Right.
gaming happening, and of course, not on the scale we've seen in New York, LA, Dallas, whatever,
Okay.
but in its, growing stages here.
Right.
And it really, really reminded me that being able to have just basic skills. These costumes were amazing. I was a little disappointed that one of the runners up, you can clearly see, bought his costume. Um, because I really felt like the ingenuity and the ability to to really see a vision from beginning to end from scratch
Right.
is just a rare skill. And when you prize the artist for bringing that skill forward, you're really making another message, that we value um, you know uh, a fine piece of clothing over fast fashion.
Right.
I bought one piece of art when I was there, because there was a lot of course, things from China, and collectibles, this, rare that, blah blah blah. But we bought a handmade piece from a local artist. She put her time, blood, sweat, and tears into it, and it was absolutely wonderful to support an artist who put their own work. They didn't print it from online and then sell it back to you. There were a couple of vendors there. Like when I wanted to talk about their pieces, they were like, "Oh, I just bought it. I didn't make it." And I was like, "Oh, okay. I mean, I understand. You like these pieces, and this is the there's nothing wrong with this. Is the aesthetic you like to sell." But I think that would have been really, I chose to support, where there was a story behind the artist and the work,
Right.
and I think on so many levels, we need to cherish things like that in our work, no matter what your art is, even if your art is accounting, you
Right.
know, um, I would like the accountant that stands out because of their passion, not the one who uses, I forgot the service, payroll.com or something like that, you
Hmm.
know. So yeah, I just hope that we keep supporting, the individual craftsmanship,
Yeah.
because even though we're growing in technology, doesn't mean that we have to
When
let
you get
go
a
of our
chance, Nature Mom, check out Sculpture Chadwell. I just went to his channel. He just left the thing, and he's got some.
okay,
Look like he's making stuff out of copper. Look like
nice,
different crafts.
fantastic.
Yeah, yeah. So you might. Yeah, I'm gonna. Yeah, I'm. Yeah,
Yeah,
I
send,
love copper
post
art.
the link. Yeah, please post the link for us. Would love to
Um,
see
Let
what
me
you're doing.
see.
And on another note, I like to kind of throw that out there about these paid streaming services. These streaming services are choosing what we watch, what we see, how they, even if you call them documentaries,
Uh-huh.
their perspective on the documentaries, how they edit it. So I think it's really great to look at other streaming sources, which there's so many artists who are coming together to create their own thing. So yeah, I think that you know the individual passionate artist, no matter what their genre is very important. The farmer,
Hmm.
a true, I see people building these communities now, which are beautiful,
Hmm.
where they're sharing skills so that they can like have clean food, clean sources,
Right.
and support each other. That's in itself a beautiful piece of art. So I'm loving it, and I say, we got to keep our innovation out there. It's very important that we don't just become full-time consumers.
Okay. Okay. Well, cool. Cool.
Uh-huh.
That's
All
the.
right, you guys.
Yeah.
Okay, that's it. Are we able to click on it? No,
Yeah.
no,
You
no.
just click on it. Yeah. Just type in YouTube right there, and
Oh,
just yeah, it'll pull right on up. Yeah, because I typed on mine, it pulled right up.
oh, okay. I see. But it doesn't let us like copy. Okay. All right. So sculpture
I just had
Chadwell.
to. Yeah, I just typed it on my phone. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So absolutely. So with that being said, thank you guys so much. I love all of our conversations every time. I feel like this is where um, this is where the most beautiful conversations, whether we agree or not, happen. You know.
Right. All right, man. All right. Well, shout out to you, Nature Mom. Shout out to Chadwell Nolan, Celestial Tuning. Who else is in the chat? Deacon, Twin, Tim. We had Alonzo Hall, All Star, and we had MD, man. So everybody in the clouds. I think we had let's see, we had one person on X, and I believe we had a couple of people on Rumble, but Rumble shut down for some reason. But shout out to everybody. And yeah, we'll be back here next week. As y'all know, through the week I do shows, commentary. I do like a lot of pop ups. A lot of stuff's been going on here in the U.S., so I've just been doing pop
Yes,
ups. Yeah, but
everywhere.
yep,
Well, U.S. had to leave them all and see what's going on.
yeah.
Okay, I didn't mean that for everybody. Yeah, I always laugh at the shopping.
Oh, okay. Oh, they still do that? I didn't know they still not that in this economy under Biden.
I mean, we can talk later about just things that I'm hearing that are happening in U.S. Like a new way of shopping. called mass raids. That's very
Oh,
interesting.
oh, yeah, 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 yeah. Way you see they ransacking the malls, they ransacking our borders. So
Oh my gosh.
thanks, Biden. Way to go, Biden. You know.
So we'll see.
Yeah.
This whether or not we get to the election is going to be very interesting, because it's also another rumor of hair. But I have to save that for next week because I must go now.
Okay then.
But yeah, yeah. But absolutely wonderful.
All
Thank you
right.
guys so much.
All right. And we out, y'all. Peace.